This is the show that brings you the news for normal Australians from a mainstream classical liberal perspective instead of a noisy woke minority perspective. And the left-wing bureaucrats that run Australia do not like those of us not on their side of politics having a voice. That's a voice that's not allowed, or any kind of platform for that matter. The top public servant bureaucrats, who are the people who really run Australia these days, are busy telling the politicians, who are the people who pretend to run Australia these days, to bring in even more laws to shut us up and you up, especially if you're an older whitish male or a non-white human of any gender, race or sexuality who isn't left-wing like them. We already have some of the most free speech stifling defamation laws and contempt of court laws in the so-called free world. Enough to make doing a show like this every week a personal hazard. But that's not enough for these top public servant control freaks. Oh no. And as if having an e-safety commissioner, a ministry of truth that can demand things be taken down off social media whenever they like, isn't enough, we now have the joy of new proposed laws that will ban misinformation and disinformation. Isn't that great? Yes, but there's just one tiny problem. Who decides what misinformation or disinformation is? Oops, yeah, we forgot about that little problem, didn't we? It's not like it's at the very core of the entire free speech debate or anything. It's not like every dystopian novel ever written starts with the evil government squashing free speech under some kind of Ministry of Truth. 1984, V for Vendetta, Harry Potter, Brave New World. But yes, of course we should have more restriction of free speech in Australia, because we need the government to keep us safe. We need the government to protect us from nasty words and bad ideas. Under the new laws that Albo is proposing, digital platforms could face massive business and job-destroying sized penalties for failing to address systemic disinformation and misinformation. Systemic, there's that wonderful word again. Okay, what does that mean? Who will be the Ministry of Truth in this scenario? It will be ACMA, the Australian Communications and Media Authority, the mob who regulate things like this show, for example, which makes me kind of nervous even talking about this. You see how censorship works, folks? Subtle, subtle fear. The Minister of Communications, Michelle Rowland, said the proposed legislation was aimed at protecting Australians from the growing threat of bad information.
The Communications Minister today pushing ahead with a plan to crack down on harmful mistruths and the digital platforms that allow them to spread.
This is an important step to keep all Australians safe.
Keep us safe. What could possibly go wrong with allowing the bureaucrats inside our government to decide what constitutes disinformation and misinformation? I can't think of any recent examples where government policies have shoved down our throats in the name of keeping us safe that turned out to be wrong.